Good afternoon. We ready for a good time?
Yes.
My daughter plays college field hockey, and she's a senior, and they haven't won a conference game in 9 years. And they have a game today, starts at 4 o'clock, and normally we watch the game on the computer. And so I called her about an hour and a half ago, and I said I wouldn't be able to watch the game because I was going to be at OMSC for our installation service today. But I had a dream. This is true. I had a dream last night that they won 3-1. So to resist temptation, I actually asked Pam Sola how to turn off my cell phone so that I wouldn't check during the service, and I figured it out. So I think this thing is turned off, and away we go. We're here today for the passing of the mantle, which is one of my favorite Bible stories. You know it all, I'm sure, about Elijah, who had had a long and productive life in ministry and in service to God. And he sensed that that time of service was coming to an end and that he would be departing. And so he tried to break away from his followers and from his people, but he had a young disciple, Elisha, who kept following him and kept following him. And no matter how much Elijah tried to shake loose of Elisha, Elisha was still there. And finally Elijah said to Elisha, "Well, what can I do for you?" And Elisha responded with what I've always felt was a wonderful and bold statement that I translate as, "Make me twice the man that you were." In other words, I'm taking over for you, but I really hope that God will bless our work in such a way that it will even be a greater and more exciting work. And so Elijah granted that blessing to Elisha, and then he went off to his reward. Interestingly enough, his reward was that he didn't die. You know the story. The chariot comes down and whisks him off to heaven. And the implication, which Jesus carries through later on, the implication is God still had greater things in store for Elijah, even while Elisha took over. And that's certainly the tradition here at the Overseas Ministries Study Center. Whether we're talking about Jerry Anderson or we're talking about Jonathan Bonk, we're talking about Nelson Jennings. We have been blessed with Elijahs who have passed the mantle to Elishas. And the Elishas have carried on the work with brilliance, and the Elijahs have gone on to continue to be used mightily by God. I said in my church on Sunday when I had both Jonathan and Nelson there that Jonathan had just retired, but what a retirement it was. If anything, it seems that he has tripled his commitment to world mission, and we're grateful for that. So we're glad that you're here to celebrate not only Nelson's installation, but OMSC in general. We might wonder what OMSC is. I like to think of it as a place where the world comes together. It's one of those rare places on earth where we seem to be able to live out Jesus' great prayer for unity. I'm just a humble local church pastor, and I'm embarrassed to tell you that the town and the area that I come from here in Connecticut, evangelical Christians and liberal Christians have nothing to do with each other. Protestants and Catholics have nothing to do with each other. Large churches and small churches have nothing to do with each other, and charismatic Christians and non-charismatic Christians have nothing to do with each other. And yet here at OMSC, this is a little slice of the kingdom of God, where no matter what strain of Christianity, no pun intended, no matter what strain of Christianity we are together in this great work of Christ. We are a little slice of the kingdom of God. So on behalf of this little slice of the kingdom of God, welcome to today's celebration. We're going to be having remarks this afternoon, first by Mr. Paulus Chan from Calvary Baptist Church here in New Haven, and then Mrs. Juanita Cruz, who is a resident from Guatemala here at OMSC this fall, and then Dr. Jonathan Bonk, our Elijah. Paulus, will you come forward?
I feel honored and privileged to stand in front of you. Some familiar faces and some new faces. I'm from Calvary Baptist Church. We're primarily a Chinese congregation, but our English ministry is growing. If any of you have been to the recent APCON World Mission Conference, there's a session about a church. It goes way back almost 200 years ago. They actually have a picture of some old Chinese man with a ponytail. That's the first Chinese fellowship when they first came to the United States. By God's grace, 19 years ago, APCON granted the Chinese congregation officially the use of the Duet Street facility. Next May will be our 20th anniversary, so we're still planning on the big celebration. Today I want to share, our church has actually worked closely with OMSC, in particular Reverend Dr. Bonk. Good to see you, Gene. In many ways, in the interest of time, I'll just share a few things. We started a Bible study in this area we call the Prospect Ministry, because a lot of the Chinese scholars from China live just around the corner. They are postdocs, scholars, and also bring their parents. So we have young professionals and also the senior people to evangelize. We started off with some church members using their house, but then they had to move on, didn't work out. And the group got larger, and OMSC came to help. We actually used this same room here, the Great Commission Hall, back in 2003 and 2004, and was quite successful. Our baptismal class, a lot of them come from the Prospect Bible study, eventually get baptized. That particular ministry still hold the record. We have 2 of them that were baptized. They were over 75 years old. So God's grace is amazing. On top of that, we've had the pleasure and the privilege that Reverend Bonk preach in an English sermon. And I missed a few, but actually I listened in the car. I always record his sermon. So technically, I've never missed one sermon from Reverend Bonk. Okay. And because of his frequent visit, he was able to preach in a well-organized theme. I think he has like an annual plan. And he's also kind enough to remind us what he taught last time, because usually it's quite a few weeks ago, and it helps the continuity. We have also participate in OMSC work through prayer and also financially. Money is always good. So we see OMSC as actually a local partner for our congregation in many ways. We also benefit from the visiting scholars that Reverend Bonk would refer to us. Sometimes they're Chinese, sometimes they come to English ministry. One standout in recent memory is Reverend Philip Seal. He stood out not because he stood 5 feet 2 inches with shoes on. He stood out because he's got powerful voice when he sings. He's got very strong voice when he preaches, and he's emotional. And he also has a unique skill. He spoke both Mandarin and Cantonese very well. We talked about it last time. Most people from China, they speak Mandarin, but they cannot speak Cantonese. Cantonese is just too many slangs, too rough. Even people in our church, after 20 years, they still could not grasp more than 20% when we speak in Cantonese. And Reverend Sue also has a personality. He can reach to young kids. At 5 feet 2, they can relate to him. But he does have a way of preaching and reaching to everybody, and we benefit tremendously from such referral. He ended up joining our fellowship. He do a lot of work, putting extra hours. I'm sure he does his work at OMSC, but he put extra hours to help us out, lead us Bible study, give messages at different fellowships. So we feel that we are really blessed because of the presence of OMSC in this area. I personally came home to the New Haven area because my wife is from this area. And I actually moved back from Thailand back to this area because she liked it so much. So, and in my household, even though I'm head of the household, but I don't make the calls. So she said, move back, so move back, and never regret. I'm glad that I came back. And today, on behalf of Calvary Baptist Church, I'd like to welcome, congratulate Dr. Jennings. And we see that the ship has changed captain, but we are confident that God will be a GPS. That's one of Reverend Bonk's favorite terms. And we look forward to more partnership, more mutual cooperation, and all for God's glory. Of course. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm just one voice representing the OMSC residents of this year. And it's a privilege to share about our experience at OMSC in this special day of the installation of Dr. Nelson Jennings as the new executive director. When we first heard about OMSC, it was from our mission that highly respects the center and recommended us to come. And we're very blessed to be the second Latino family coming here, because this is an international community and we are learning so many things from people from different places and from the leaders here. It's really a blessing for us. From the very beginning, we had a friendly response from Dr. John Bonk, and he gave us a warm welcome, telling us that others will follow up with our application process, and that was the case. We kept corresponding, and we didn't feel that transition, although I assume it was not easy on this side. But God has His time, and He's chosen people to carry out His work. And He chose Dr. Jennings as the next executive director for OMSC. When we arrived, Dr. Jennings welcomed us, as he did with the other residents. From that moment, we felt part of this community. We felt part of this family because of his care and genuine interest in each one of us. During this time, we have learned to appreciate him and his wife, Kathy, to be friends, to laugh together, and to hear his heart when he really wants to express something and he starts speaking Japanese. We like the interest that Kathy has for us, so we can communicate well here. She gives her time to teach English patiently and to make us functional in this community. We really appreciate the interest that they have in us, showing us love, teaching us cultural issues, and sharing with us special moments that will stay in our memories forever. We thank God for your parents. We thank God for your son. And for the work they do, for the love they show, and for reflecting God in their lives. We are also thankful for the staff that is working to serve us and to make us feel at home, for the care and the spirit of service that each one of them have for us. This is a teamwork, and we thank the Lord for giving us the opportunity to spend this year here and live this very important moment for the life of OMSC, as it is the installation of Dr. Jennings. May God bless you as you serve Him through this ministry. Thank you.
Well, David, I hope that the passing of the mantle is a little bit more graceful than what happened yesterday when I was part of a very, very dignified proceeding. And as they were putting the mantle on me, both of my arms got stuck in little cul-de-sac sleeves. So my hands couldn't get out. So there was a little thrashing around at the front that's not customarily a part of these occasions, but it's probably good for us all. And Paulus and friends from Calvary Baptist, it's so good to see you, because there was a handful of individuals and churches on whom I could call at any time if we had an emergency. And the last such emergency we had was with a refugee couple from Iraq. They were in desperate straits, had a great deal of difficulty because of a medical situation. And so I got out my little list, and I called Calvary Baptist Church, and I said, can you give $1,500? And then I have several I can ask about the same amount, and it adds up. And we were able to help them. They never say no. And it's been an honor to be in partnership with you and to be supported by you. And I'm delighted that Dr. Jennings and the team here can continue to count on you as very faithful partners in the gospel. My chariot is not that fiery, and I hope it's never a fiery chariot. It's a Toyota Corolla, so I don't know if they catch on fire or not. But one of my favorite passages, as you know, Nelson, once you've been in one place for 16 years, you begin repeating yourself. But one passage that I'm constantly thinking about, and when I'm in Korea and I've been asked about retirement matters, and I've been asked on occasion, when should a leader begin thinking of transition? And my answer has been, you should begin thinking of it immediately, as soon as you start. Because you're contingent. You're not going to last. You're going to do the best you can, but you have to try to make sure that whatever you leave behind can be continued, because it's much bigger than you and much more important than you. And so I love Paul's farewell words to the Ephesians, and I've used them here before, twice at least. I'm not going to comment on them. I'm just going to read these words because they're particularly poignant, and I'm going to read them from the Message because the Message has a very nice way of capturing what I think was a very emotional occasion for Paul. Paul had been really pouring out his life for many, many people, but particularly the Ephesians. Maybe 2.5 years of ministry, a lot of problems, in prison, out of prison, suffering all sorts of abuse. But what struck me was the total lack of self-pity. And these are the concluding words. Now I'm turning you over to God, our marvelous God, whose gracious word can make you into what he wants you to be, and give you everything that you could possibly need in this community of holy friends. I've never, as you so well know, had any taste for wealth or fashion. With these bare hands, I took care of my own basic needs and those who worked with me. In everything I've done, I've demonstrated to you how necessary it is to work on behalf of the weak and not exploit them. You'll not likely go wrong here if you keep remembering what our Master said, you're far happier giving than getting. So those are Paul's words to you, Paul's words to me. And I leave them with you, but I do want to say a little bit. I'm going to read something. A few years ago, I received a wonderful gift book from Dr. Baker. It was dated 1910. I don't know what the occasion was. Maybe I was under particular stress. Maybe it was my 10th anniversary as director. I don't know. But I use the book all the time. It's just a very simple little book called Leadership Prayers. And I thought to myself, when I ordered this on Amazon.com, I hope Dr. Baker hasn't already given you a copy. If so, then you each have a copy. Because this is for both of you. I'm just going to read the opening prayer, and then I'm going to give you this book. And this book comes with my prayers for you, and with my great delight, and Jean's great delight, that God has chosen such a good successor couple, because this really is a couples ministry. It can't be done by one person. It's a teamwork. God, this leadership role that I play from time to time, this character I assume, is a gift from you. You know I am not essentially the head of all this. I'm merely your child, trying to become like you and do what you want. Playing leader for a while is a great role in this real-life drama of the good king versus the evil prince. But unless you work a miracle, I will not play the role well, and the people I care about so much will suffer. I know how the story goes. The evil prince tries to deceive, disrupt, and destroy anything good I might do. I know that in the long run, truth wins, and at the very end, good triumphs. I even know which ideas and values are supposed to control each character, including me. But I also know that I have to write the script as I go and help other people play their parts. And I have to coordinate our script with all the other scripts in the other parts of your kingdom. It is beyond me. But if you will whisper the cues, I will improvise. Unless your Spirit informs and encourages me, I will not know how to play my part. I will stand foolishly silent on the stage, not knowing what I can do or even what I truly like to do. Worst of all, I will not know what I cannot do. Unless you intervene, I will blow my lines, miss my cues, confuse all the others. Help me sense my spiritual gifts, so I will attempt only what you especially enable me to do and lead, only where you are at work. Do not let this leadership role consume me. Do not let me think that I have become my character. Remind my spirit who I really am, so that when I go home I will not keep acting like the CEO. Guide me to do what is best for my family and for my own health. Please help me keep it all straight. Leadership is extremely important, and I want intensely to do it right. But sometimes I forget where the role ends and I start. So I want your Spirit to remind me, however and whenever you have to, it's not really me, God, it's just what I do. If you will whisper the cues, I will improvise. So Nelson, my hand off to you. God bless you, and Kathy.
Help heal the one within.
We have 2 more chairs over here, if anybody would like them. We're very pleased to have Reverend Judy Chung with us today and looking forward to her message on rethinking mission. I don't often get a chance to quote Chairman Mao, but he allegedly said that revolution should be ongoing. And I certainly think that that is true of mission. We need to be rethinking that all the time. And OMSC is one of those places where it happens every day. We rethink mission. So Judy, if you'd come forward and share your message with us.
Thank you. Friends and guests of Overseas Ministries Study Center, it is an honor and privilege for me to be with you on this very special occasion. I want to express my gratitude to Nelson for giving me this opportunity to celebrate this momentous occasion by sharing a few humble thoughts that I have about the future of mission. I want to begin this time by telling you a story about a young woman whose family had moved to a foreign country when she was a child. She doesn't really remember what her mother country is like, but her family has instilled in her the cultural values and the religious traditions of their home country. She had no difficulty acquiring the necessary skills to blend in with the rest of the other young women in this country. In fact, unless she identified herself by her ethnic identity, no one would have guessed that she was a foreigner. She grew up to be a beautiful and wise young woman and was selected to a prestigious and powerful leadership position. At the advice of her wise uncle, she did not reveal her ethnic heritage to anyone. Then one day, she was asked by her uncle to speak up on behalf of her people who were being threatened by the government. And when she hesitated, this is what her uncle told her. Do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone of all the Jews will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place, but you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. Yes, this is a story of Esther, a young woman of Jewish descent whom God used to bring salvation to his people in exile. This is a story about a bicultural woman whom God has called to be a bridge builder for such a time as this. I love the book of Esther for maybe perhaps some obvious reasons. But one of the reasons is that I can relate to this story of Esther, not the part about becoming a queen, but I can relate to what it is like to embrace two cultures. I am a 1.5 generation Korean American, as I was born in South Korea and grew up in the United States. Like Esther, I am bicultural in that I love eating kimchi and watching Korean dramas. But I also love eating a good hot dog at a baseball game. Like Esther, I have acquired the necessary skills to adapt to what I consider to be my new home country, the United States of America, while maintaining my ethnic identity and cultural values of my mother country. And like Esther, I feel that I am being called by God to be a bridge builder for such a time as this. In my pastoral ministry, serving in a cross-cultural context, I was a bridge builder, helping a primarily aging Anglo congregation to connect with increasingly diverse neighbors in their community. In my role now as an executive at the General Board of Global Ministries, a global mission agency of the United Methodist Church, I am a bridge builder, helping to connect the church and mission in this rapidly changing world. Friends, all of us recognize that we live in a world that is radically different from 100 years ago or even 20 years ago. And as the world changes, it is time for us to rethink mission. The Christian mission that led my grandparents to accept Jesus Christ almost 90 years ago has changed drastically since that time. The image of evangelistic Westerners going to developing countries to make converts and to establish Christian churches and civilizations is no longer the way we do mission. Today, of more than 320 missionaries of the General Board of Global Ministries, almost 50% are from a country other than the United States. Today, missionaries from everywhere to everywhere are engaged in a variety of ministries in partnership with local leaders, serving in collaboration with indigenous people. Today, Christian mission is not about replicating Western structures and systems, but more about recognizing that the grace of God is at work even before any action on our part. Today, Christian mission is about becoming bridge builders between different cultures of the world defined by language, ethnicity, nationality, or any other criteria set by the society. But more importantly, Christian mission is about becoming bridge builders for the gospel for such a time as this. In this rapidly changing world, becoming a bridge builder for the gospel requires more than the simple linear movement of going from one culture to another. Becoming a bridge builder for God's mission requires us to transcend culture, to transcend multiple cultures. As Dana Roberts, a professor at Boston University School of Theology, writes, mission is now a multi-directional enterprise requiring us as bridge builders to be flexible, entrepreneurial, while grounded in local church communities. Missionaries in the 21st century are expected to be committed to deep personal intercultural relationships using all resources, including technology, to connect to a global community. This changing understanding of Christian mission is evident in some of our own United Methodist missionaries. Two missionaries of the General Board of Global Ministries are a second-generation Korean-American couple. They were born in the United States and were raised in America, and now they are serving in Kazakhstan, ministering to indigenous clergy and lay leaders, assisting the United Methodist Church to grow and expand in Eurasia. One of the significant people group that they are ministering to in Kazakhstan are ethnic Koreans. These are third and fourth generation Koreans who have migrated from Korea to Russia and then to Kazakhstan. So in this country, far away from Korea, Russia, and America, ethnic Koreans of two different worlds are coming together to be in mission together, crossing boundaries of language and culture for the sake of the gospel. They are the bridge builders of God for such a time as this. In Cambodia, there are 7 United Methodist missionaries of 4 different ethnicities serving alongside one another. Among them are a woman from Bangladesh working with the poorest of the poor, a Cambodian American couple who came to the United States as refugees and have now returned to their mother country to plant churches, a Kenyan woman coordinating volunteers in mission, a Filipino woman serving as treasurer, and a Filipino-American pastor providing leadership as a country director. For such a time as this, these missionaries have traveled from 3 different continents, coming together for the common purpose of God's mission. The missionaries of today are from everywhere to everywhere, willing to transcend multiple cultures, to engage in God's mission in a spirit of mutuality, to build appropriate, active, transforming relationships that lead to both personal salvation and social